Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly symposium speaker series. I'm Alex. I am the founder and the director of the paranormal, not the Paranormal Research Symposium. I'm the symposium chair. We're off to a great start today. I'm the founder and the director of the Association of Paranormal Study, which is the team that is putting on the symposium this year. And I am so glad you are joining us tonight as we count down to the symposium, which is going to be happening on August 23rd, 2025 in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is right now, we're featuring conversations with some of the incredible speakers who will be presenting at the symposium. And tonight, we've got a really powerful lineup for you. So we have Carla Salento, who is part of the powerhouse team behind 9 Lives Paranormal. Unfortunately, Gail is under the weather tonight, and we're not going to make Gail go on camera while she's dealing with the flu. So, Cara and Gail are investigators, authors, and event organizers who really bring heart, humor, and hard-earned insight into everything they do. And we're also joined by Lauren Hellekson, an innovator who is a paranormal researcher and inventor who is really pushing the boundaries of how we understand energy, spirit, and the environment. So I'm really, really excited to talk to both Cara and Lauren tonight. So whether you're here live or catching the replay, thank you for being part of this community. And be sure to drop your questions in the chat. This is an interactive show. So if you have questions, feel free to drop them in, and you may actually get your 2 seconds of fame because we can actually show off the questions on screen. This is one from our page. So if you love what you're hearing tonight and you don't have your tickets to the symposium, that's the URL right there. But yeah, so we're going to feature comments and questions in the chat. So it's going to be good stuff tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Cara and Lauren. Hello, ladies. How are you?
And I would like to state that I believe that you're the founder of the paranormal. Just saying.
That works. That's the new thing. Yeah, let's do that.
We're doing that, right?
And Cara, I love your background.
Thank you so much. I have that actually tattooed on my leg.
What? I love it.
That.
I'm tattooing my legs, but it's not that type of show. I would have to.
I mean, we can make it that. That's, symposium after dark,
Symposium after dark, yes.
An extra ticket.
VIP.
Right? Exactly. Right. VIP experience. Oh my gosh. Awesome. All right. So to start off with, I'm going to do the very traditional thing, and I'm going to have the two of you introduce yourselves, and let's go ahead and start with Cara.
Okay. So yes, I am Cara Salento, and I'm 50% of 9 Lives Paranormal, which my other 50%, like Alex already said, has the flu today, so she can't be here. However, I am in New Jersey, and I started in the paranormal from a very young age, actually, because I grew up around Italian folklore and Italian magic, and that's where I got my start. And to make it even more eventful, I also live a mile and I'm still living in my home that I grew up in. I live a mile and a half, not even, away from the old defunct Overbrook Asylum. Oh. So yes, so I live literally down the street, and I grew up with it actually when it was still an asylum, and then it closed, and I grew up with all the hauntings around that. So for the past 50 years, I've lived in the town that has Overbrook Asylum. Yeah.
Well, you just stunned us into silence there.
Sorry, yeah. So if you ever want to come visit me, come on, I can show you where it is, because now what they did is they knocked it down, and now it's condominiums. So now there's a whole other research project, and I have the kids, because I teach in town, I have the kids that live in those condominiums. Wow, Laura. Laura Hellekson, she's like, give me the equipment, let's go over there.
No, I'm just like, geez, I just took apart televisions. I'm just gonna go.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Wow, that's incredible.
Sorry.
I mean, literally, both of us are like,
Well, you guys have to come over one day. We'll zip line, go for like a drive.
Oh my God, I know. That sounds so cool. I can't believe that they built, well, I can't believe that. But
Yeah.
I have like so many questions, but it's not my
I
show.
Again, Symposium After Dark, showing off some leg and stories about this place, you know?
In my backyard.
Wow, that's so cool.
That's cool. All right. Lauren, how about let's have you introduce yourself?
I'm Lauren Hellekson, or Lauren Haunts, because my last name is a little hard to say, I guess. Not I guess, actually. It's very understandable that it's hard to say. It's a difficult last name. I build equipment. So I think my claim to fame, what people would recognize most, is the crystal pod. So the proximity sensor that I throw a bunch of crystals onto. That's kind of my claim to fame. And I, as of late, even more so, I've always sort of dove into the energy side, not so much the spirit side of paranormal hunting. So I love sort of the answers and the questions behind the why is this happening, not so much the who is the haunting. And I have gone so down the rabbit hole that I am starting my Bachelor's of Science in Physics and Astronomy and Math at the end of August. So there, see, parents, okay, we're not just weirdos, because sometimes it leads to in-depth college education. So yeah, so I live in the rabbit hole. I want to find that back door of science to the paranormal. We do so much trying to find the science of the paranormal, and I want to find the paranormal of the science. So
Love that.
woo-hoo.
Nice.
Love it. It's great. I have to say though, when I took physics in college, I actually failed it the first time, but it wasn't until I got into the paranormal that now that I understand it.
It's I mean, there's a lot of parallels,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot of math.
It's a lot of math,
But
right?
I love math, so it's okay.
Nice. Nice.
But yeah, I try to bring that approachability to it though. So I make a lot of content on it.
Cool.
I'm definitely one of those, like, explain it to me like I'm 5 when it comes to science. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that same loved Bill Nye the Science Guy, loved Neil deGrasse Tyson. I love visually.
Yeah.
Like I can't do math in my head,
Nope.
but if I see it visually, I can get it. So when I was like, my approach to when I want to teach or make videos for the paranormal, I'm like, how would Bill Nye or how would Neil do this? Or how would Miss Frizzle do this? And like, that's my destiny, y'all. Just green-haired Frizzle. That's what I want.
There you go. Goals right there. Let's see. We got a lot of love happening in the chat already. So let's see. Oh, and I need to give a shout out to our sponsors. So yes, the symposium is sponsored by Ghostly Images of Gettysburg, Ghosted Magazine, Gold Dust Publishing, and Lauren Hans. She didn't give us her money though until after we accepted her.
I was going to say,
totally
I
fine.
didn't even ask to sponsor until after, because I was like, I don't want this to be weird. And I did sponsor last year. I was totally
did.
on it because I can't. I'll start crying if you want me to gab how much I appreciate this event, how much I talk about it. Literally almost every single event, I think I talk about this event at other people's events. I'm so like what you're putting together. I can't. Just how it's done, how you have to be able to be a part of it.
Oh,
so much.
Chef's kiss.
Thank you. Thank you. Lots of love coming in from the chat, y'all, on Facebook and YouTube. So, yeah, just a reminder, everyone, this is an interactive show, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get rocking and rolling. So, my first question this is the same question for both of you. What is your topic for the symposium? Can you give us a little preview? And whoever wants to start first, y'all can thumb wrestle for it.
Do we buzz it in? I'll go first. You went first last time, right? We'll just go back. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll go back and forth.
That works.
So my topic is expanding a little bit on some techniques that and equipment that we typically use in the paranormal. So I am introducing my sort of method that I use called the KSE method, which stands for kinetic, static, and electromagnetic. And if you've pretty much ever been to an event in the last 2 years and you've come up to my table, I have given you this spiel of how these energies are connected to each other within the paranormal space in terms of using trigger equipment. And it's why I sell a proximity sensor, a static sensor, and a motion sensor together. And it's just supposed to allow us to create more objective direction when we are exploring a space if we use equipment and tools, because we use such a plethora of so many different kinds of tech in the paranormal. And I feel like, and I think a lot of people would really agree, we don't need 90% of it. So introducing something like the KSE method helps people to simplify their exploration, and then also really hone in on like, what are they trying to connect with? What are they trying to collect, and what their goal is, and how they can frame their theory. And it's like a catalyst to create a more organized approach to exploration of the supernatural.
I do have to give a shout out to you, Lauren, because if for anyone who has applied to the symposium or is considering it, we do have a rubric, and we actually have a whole committee that grades the abstracts. So an abstract is about, a couple hundred words on what your presentation idea is and whatnot. And we had a committee of about 5 or 6 people, different academics from different backgrounds, and Lauren got a perfect score on her abstract.
You're gonna make me cry. Oh, I just scared my dog. Oh, that's gonna make me.
You got a perfect score. You were across the committee. You got a perfect score on your abstract.
I can't talk for a second. I think I'm too hormonal right now.
I don't know if we told you your acceptance, but yeah, you got a perfect score.
I was, you know how nervous I was, because I messaged you like a few times. I was like, do you want to read what I have? Do you want to give me some feedback? That wasn't just you. I'm pretty sure there were 12 other people that I was like, do you want to read this really quick and just give me some feedback on this, please? I was the most nervous. So that.
Yeah, you got a perfect score across the board with the committee. So. Good job.
Okay, I'm glad I don't have to talk for a couple seconds, because I have to center myself now.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that in college. Oh my God. Thank you. Why'd you tell me that in front of people?
I thought you already knew, but I
didn't
realized
know that. But that means a lot, because I did. I worked really hard on this, and like I said, when I tell you how much I love the idea of this event, I can't stress that enough. So that means a lot. So thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Cara, let's hear about what you and Gail are going to be sharing at the symposium.
Well, now how am I supposed to follow up that?
Listen, little miss. I grew up next to a haunted asylum. All right.
I'm sitting next to the curve breaker in class, and you put her next to the one that sits in the back of the class.
And now we're about to be sassy, short-haired, four-eyed BFFs.
That's right. Okay, so what I did is I wanted to study what takes people from skepticism to acceptance, and I wanted to study the linear transition on what makes that person go from one place to another. And then I realized while I was doing this that transition period between skepticism and acceptance is its own liminal space, which in their own mind, I'll also look at Lauren's eyes just got big when I said it. She's like,
I like this.
I'm
so excited.
So what I did is I took a random group of people. I just put a regular call out, and I wanted to talk to people about their experiences, and I recorded them, and I gave them a blind survey to fill out, and then I took the data on where they started to find they started to go from the acceptance. And actually, I started jokingly call it and lovingly call it, sometimes it's not the pipes. Because, because I was just saying it in a jokingly way to somebody, and I was like, sometimes it's just not the pipes. And when did you say to yourself it wasn't a pipe? That there really was something knocking in your wall? And you'd be surprised on how many people were open about their experiences, not in the beginning to me, which is, this is just something else that I learned in doing this research. Not just somehow people were open, not in the beginning to me, but once I got them talking about it, how many people started talking after I gave them that gateway and said, what about, And then, but their data reflected that. Their data reflected that after they and I don't want to give too much away, but after they knew somebody, how much more? I think it was like 67% of the people talked to family and friends, about it, and the conversations that they had with their family and friends reinforced the idea that this is something that's beyond the scope of reason for for them. So yeah, that's what we're going to be exploring. I don't want to give away too much data, but I really wanted to hone into the psychology of it and, what makes a skeptic into a believer. So,
Love
yeah.
it.
I love that.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. Try.
Nice.
I told you I sit in the back of the class.
Oh yeah. You're like the observant watcher.
I love that.
I'm the silent straight A person that sits in the back of the class and carves, and I go, and I think.
I love that.
That was my MO. The teacher never thought I was paying attention, and then they called on me.
I'm the high school flunky.
So
Nice.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I said I'm the high school flunky who's turning into the physicist.
Are you? You gotta love that.
To riches with my brain.
Yeah,
that's so cool though, because that's like an important topic though, because the debunk culture is like almost becoming toxic because they're not honoring that transition, and it's almost just like what a cool thing to study.
Yeah, I thought so. And it really did interest me because there were many people just in private conversations, or even when I go to paracons, people that would come just to to debunk,
because we all want to say it. Well, I'm a skeptical believer, and it's like, let's break that down.
Yeah, let's break, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. I was like, let's break it down and let's look at what that actually is in terms of. Actually, Alex and I had a conversation about loaded vocabulary, in the field.
And buzzwords.
Yes, loaded vocabulary, and how certain vocabulary in the field gives people an image, and the image has a judgment and a connotation to it that is not necessarily reflective of the science and what is true. Mm-hmm. So, and where does that vocabulary come from? Does it come from culture? Does it come from, preconceived notion? Where does it come from? Yeah, I know. My day job, Lauren and I are going to go off and we're going to have a tangent right now. So
You're good. Makes my job easier tonight.
All right. So my day job is that I'm a speech therapist. So I'm all into linguistics and how these things form ideas and how they kind of push you one way or another just by connotation of a word, and where those things come from. So I'm all into that. Good. What?
I love that. Oh, I was reading the funny comment. Those debunkers and skeptics always up to no good.
Yeah, the meddling.
But you're right though. Those are they're like buzzwords, and I think sometimes they lose their meaning.
Yes.
And they're not really being used in the way that they are really honestly meant to.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Wow. Cool.
I just geeked out. Sorry.
Oh my God, I love it.
Geek out. Like that's what we're here to do tonight. It's just
Frankie,
chat, geek out.
I'm so sorry.
You're good.
But I was hoping that I'm not pointing in the right direction. Frankie, he's a therapist, and I was like, I hope Frankie's still watching because he's gonna love your topic too.
Yeah, Frankie's one of my BFFs.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
Nice. Okay. Can I answer the question? When I say skeptic, do you mean skeptical in particular, or do you mean scientific skeptic converted into pure belief or something else? Can I answer that?
Yeah, go for it.
Skeptical, I mean, in terms of this, I meant skeptical of a particular experience and how the skepticism of a particular experience that cannot be rationalized turns into a belief.
I like that.
Ooh.
That's
okay.
I love that is not broad. Like it's very specific.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Correct. And that's part of what it is. It's trying to get into that, like you used the word granular, it's trying to get into those little pieces, you know, and break it down for everybody. Break it down.
I know.
Nice.
Sorry, God.
Good stuff. All right. So let's see. I got another question for the two of you, especially since you're both, science-y based, you both got the background. So when it comes to, now this is kind of an obscure question, but when it comes to tech versus intuition, where do you each fall on that spectrum?
Did you hear that groan in the background?
Was that Gail?
Gail is here. If you guys are like, Gail and I, if you haven't known it, and she was 102 fever on the couch. And she just geeked
vocalized what we were all thinking, though.
Yes, and she just geeked out on the couch watching Bobby Flay.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Same though.
Yeah, right.
I don't think one can survive without the other.
No. You have to repeat the question because I started laughing so hard. I just.
So when it comes to tech versus intuition, like where do you each fall on that spectrum? Like, do you yeah. So, a lot of times we're using our intuition or, well, people use intuition or people completely go to tech. And then there's some who work with both and they found a balance that works for them. Where do you two fall on that scale?
So, okay. So Gail just yelled tech, so I'll answer for her. So she yelled tech. However, I tend to feel, and I could be wrong because this might be a personal thing, I tend to feel that like your body could be your best instrument, right? And we always say, like when the hair stands up on the back of your neck, that's what kept the dinosaurs from eating us, right? So, it's
yeah.
Yeah. Or when you vibe with somebody, you're like, or you don't vibe with somebody, it's something that you really can't explain, but then it happens. So for all intents and purposes, going back to vocabulary, let's call it intuition, right? So, but really it's a sensory experience that we can't explain. So that being said, I think it's a blend of both, because if my intuition, for lack of a better word, or my sensory experience, I'm calling it intuition, goes off, that might be the key for me to use my equipment.
However, using different kinds of equipment, it's more validity, and you have a means of quantifying the experience.
Can you hear that?
A little bit.
She said, what did you say? You might want to come over here sick as a dog. Oh, she's coming. Look at this. We got her off the couch just for a second in her full fever. Now, let's count this by saying she might be in the middle of a fever dream. She might be.
Sometimes those are the best answers.
NyQuil.
Even better.
Using different kinds of tech.
Using different kinds of tech
Can lend validity
to an experience,
quantify it,
and help quantify it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what she said. So in her sickness.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree. There's correlation. Now I know correlation isn't causation, but
I would have to. I think there is a lot of like contextual factors that go into that answer, because we have a lot of tech used as confirmation bias. And then we have a lot of intuition used as confirmation bias. So I think it depends on the setup and the overall like situation happening, because I could set up a very like detailed experiment, have a lot of factors, I have a lot of controls. And if I am going in there thinking I'm going to find a ghost, my brain may just find a ghost, and I will be able to verify it with certain pieces of equipment. And not to like, so that's why the KFC method. But honestly, I took a lot of that into consideration when putting together like the research and experimentation, because it is a set of like checks and balances. So if you have the checks and balances that will say, okay, here's what I'm feeling, and this piece of equipment did go off. However, my checks and balances over here were not triggered. So even though I'm going to document this as something, I'm not going to count it as any sort of like evidence or even something like super substantial. It's just going to be a happenstance. And if you get enough happenstances, cool. It's cool. It's not really like evidence, but I think personal experiences are what keep us here. So if we're like super heavy tech, I find myself when I'm more super tech and that's it, I start to really let go of a lot of my weird wackamamie theories. And those theories are what keeps me wondering, and it's what keeps me creative, and it's what keeps me wanting to lock myself in a haunted location overnight, you know? And so I think there's so many more pieces that can go into that answer. So I think it's almost like case by case, but generally speaking, I think there's a mixture, a special mixture that can be useful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you got a question here from Todd and Carmela. Would the debunking community ever agree or say a paranormal / supernatural experience actually happened, even if it hit them in the face?
I think sometimes we force stereotypes on the debunking and skeptic community. I think that there's both. I think there's people that are just maybe like, so because we'll throw it out there because a lot of people know who this is. Kenny Biddle was a paranormal investigator. So there is a part of him that is like, I want to experience something. And then he's made a career of being a part of the skeptic community. So sometimes I wonder, like, is the career portion of your skepticism keeping you in that skeptic place? And then I do see like he'll go on paranormal investigations. And so I think he might lean a little bit more, probably staying a skeptic, and he's going to be a really hard sell, which is fine. But I think that there's an ebb and flow with that, because I also think there are some people in the skeptic community that are total believers and they're just trying to keep themselves grounded by being in the skeptic community. So I'm going to be just neutrality over here. I'm just going to stay over here in Switzerland land.
I'm gonna answer it this way, right? That it's a skeptic is one thing, and that was a little bit like what I was trying to get to the bottom of doing this research. When does that skepticism hit somebody in the face and they say, oh, and this kind of also talks about what John Michael has questions is talking about. He says, I don't consider myself a debunker, more of a skeptic, and he's right. There's difference between being a skeptic and a cynic. If you're a cynic, if you're a cynic, then, I can have a candle without a flame melt in front of you and you're going to say, it's just hot in the room, but, so there is, I think skeptic has room for growth in either direction. A skeptic is that healthy skeptic is in the middle of the road, and you could either go one way or the other. Maybe there's even room to say, yes, I'm skeptic, except when I went here. That was different, as opposed to being a cynic where it's like, nothing.
It's all fake.
It's all fake.
Right?
Bunch of charlatans.
Bunch of charlatans.
Bunch of charlatans.
Interesting question from Joan. Going back to our tech versus intuition. Intuition in this case would be the hypothesis, and the tech would then collect data to confirm or deny it.
Well, I guess which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's like if my intuition or the hair stood up on the back of my neck and then I went to go use some equipment like a barometric pressure changer or a static electricity sensor, and then that went off, then we could confirm and say that there was something anomalous that happened in the room that caused that sensory experience. So that would in that situation, yes, it would be is the fact that my sensory experience that I call intuition valid, you know?
Yeah.
What do you think? Well, Lauren's licking her lips. She's gonna suck her teeth. What are you thinking?
So technically,
he's like, I have thoughts.
Hypothesis would be a little too far beyond. I think the hypothesis would actually come into play when we start using the tech after our intuition. Intuition would be more of like the observation state, like the observation and figuring out the question that you want to ask stage. Because if we approach every single haunting as in, is this haunted? If that's the question we're always asking no matter what, then sure, we can line those things up a little differently. But if we're just going to a space and we want to use our intuition, that's our observation. That's like our personal observation of looking around the space, feeling around the space, getting our like spiritual, energetic baseline. And then we would also have to gather some background data and some information and a little bit of research. So maybe that goes into like, here's what I was feeling. So maybe I'm going to take a baseline with some EMF. I'm going to do this and that. And then hypothesis could be something, because a hypothesis is a if then that, like if this happens, then this should happen question. Instead of like, we all think of a hypothesis as just the question, is this place haunted? Isn't necessarily a hypothesis. So according to like scientific method, hypothesis would be if my intuition is sensing something in this room and I'm getting some EMF, bursts here and there. If I place my EMF equipment out, I should be seeing some constant hits on my EMF stuff. That would be more of like what my hypothesis would be in the scenario. So and then we go to and there's and a lot of people say too, because we hear a lot of like, we're applying the scientific method to this experiment, and that's so hard to do. So I always tell people, instead of saying we're applying the scientific method, because that is something that takes tons of time, and it's also my thing keeps falling out of this ear. I think I just have like a little ear. Very difficult to create controls and create proper observations and create things that we can form a detailed hypothesis with that has like a lot of depth to it. And I don't know where it went. So instead I like to say like, why don't we use variables in an experiment? And I did do a video on using experiment variables. So like the control variables, the different things that we will change about the experiment. That's really easy to do in the paranormal space. I didn't answer that question at all. I just went on a rant. But
no, it's great. You answered it.
I liked it. I liked where you were going. Didn't need a passport. Followed you the whole way.
Oh, good. My passport's expired.
You can get that renewed, Lauren.
I know. We have so many plans. We want to do that where they plan the trip for you and you don't find out where you're going until you're at the airport.
I actually do want to try that out. Like, I feel like it could be
incredible.
Yeah. Takes all the planning out of the way. Jim left an interesting comment. He said, I would contend the first requirement for tech is to define exactly what tech you're using and how well you understand the theory of its operation. Oh, you know why I brought that up.
Oh, Jim, are you flirting?
I know Jim too, so this is really funny.
Yes, sir. I gotta find my other ear thing. I want to hear that with both ears.
He's like, I need stereo for that because it's my love language. I need that.
Yes, that's my whole platform, Jim. I have like my literal like little trademark saying is, how do you know it works if you don't know how it works? Right. And a lot of that is far beyond like, oh, it is a radiating electromagneticity device and electromagnetic waves set it off. Because fun fact, it's actually not how REM pods work.
It has a capacitor. Gail just goes, it has a capacitor.
Boom! Oh my gosh, you guys, everybody stop flirting with me. I am a married woman. Also, yes, we're all in a relationship now. That's amazing. That's incredible. Yes. I don't even know where my ear thing is. I'm so distracted right now I'm gonna cry.
Oh, y'all are delightful. I'm
This
so
is
glad we
amazing.
did this tonight. All right, Cara.
Symposium's gonna be a hoot, man.
Oh my gosh. Like, this year we actually have like not after hours programming, but it's like, hey, there's a bar that's going to be open fairly late at night, and I feel like it's going to be got all these spooky nerds, all these spooky nerds coming together.
I'll tell you right now, I have been sober for 7 years. I don't need a drop of alcohol to act like I'm drunk on knowledge. Don't worry.
Love it. Love it. And congratulations on 7 years. That's amazing.
Oh, thanks. I'm pretty sure it's 7 years. It's 7 or 8. I don't know.
Nice. Nice. All right, Cara.
Yeah.
This question's for you.
Uh-oh.
So, you're part of a team of exorcists.
Yes, I am.
What does that work look like behind the scenes, and what are some safeguards that you recommend to investigators?
All right. So, what does it look like behind the scenes? Like, you want me to go through like a little bit of the process?
Yeah, I'm really curious about this too, especially
Okay.
given your topic and whatnot. It's like this is good. This is juicy. I love it.
This is juicy. Okay, this gets into it. So, how it boils down is that in terms of process, there is obviously there is a process. So the person reaches out. There's paperwork, obviously, we have to do, but then there is an interview, and the interview consists of a paranormal team, a priest, sometimes an occultist, and a person within the mental health field. And then from there, depending on, and it may take more than one interview to really get to the crux of what's happening. It's because what they're saying, again, when we're talking about from skeptic to believer, sometimes their perception of what is happening, is not exact. It can be rationalized away, right? Not saying that it can't, all of it can be, but 99% of the people that I have worked with in the past year have had a mental health issue that looked like it was something that was supernatural from their perspective. So 99.9%, and out of those 99.9%, 2 of them we had to call authorities for intervention. 2 had to call authorities. 1 we had to get a social worker. So that being said, if it goes further than that, usually myself, other paranormal investigators, Gail, will go to the person's house and do a paranormal investigation. And I could say that 9 times out of 10, the paranormal investigations that occur in the home are not much different than going to a paranormal investigation of any other location that does not have demonic activity, because usually by the time we're called, it's an oppression, it's not a possession. So so the person is having the experience either mentally or physically or whatever, and it's not as demonstrative as a full-on possession. So for example, some of the things, that I would see are a person speaking in 2 voices. So there would be like a voice, and then there would be an underlying voice, and one's a typical pitch and the other one is extremely low coming out at the same time. Or I did watch this one gentleman's stomach swell as we prayed. It just kind of grew. Things like that, and things that you just can't explain. At that point, we do send them for a medical and a psychological or psychiatric before we even go further. And then the person always has the choice of whether or not they want to continue or not. Depending on your belief system, sometimes the person drops out and doesn't want to go forward. And, you have to question what's making them drop out. But this is also where I deviate a little bit from the exorcism part of it. being a paranormal investigator, I always say to people, I cast a wider net in terms of explanation than say something that's religious based. You know, in terms when it comes to explanation, religion, where these entities could be coming from, if that is your belief system. And as a paranormal investigator, I kind of try to say I have to be bilingual, because if I, coming from a Judeo-Christian background, goes to a home and the person is from a different faith, then we're really speaking on two different wavelengths. So in terms of what I do, I tend to have a bigger, you know, I'll date myself. I have a bigger Rolodex of you know, strategies if they go forward and that's not, you know, they don't want to proceed with what the Judeo-Christian background wants to do. So did I answer your question, or did I go on a rant?
No, yeah, you did. I mean, I mean, you answered the question and you did it
Then
through,
some.
yeah, and then some, which is great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I find myself, especially on like social media, as I navigate, you know, the other social media spaces, people are so eager to label something as demonic. And
Right.
it's like, it's so much more complex, because my team, when we were doing residential cases, and we would get the occasional like demonic possession, demonic oppression cases. And it's like, there's a whole system from an ethics standpoint and being responsible that you need to follow. It's not just going in there and saying something's a demon. It's like, yes, the mental health professional needs to be present. You know, there's a whole, and this is stuff that even like at one point the Warrens were advocating for. So it's like, come on, friends, like it's, having a mental health professional present is probably one of the key things. So I really appreciate, you know, with your background and the way that you navigate this space. It's refreshing. I'll just say that. It's very refreshing. In an age where everything's being labeled a demon or demonic, it's one of my
Things.
You know, if you ever want to make my eye twitch, you know, that's what you do.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah,
that and orbs.
Gail and I were gonna get T-shirts saying it's not a demon. We were gonna get shirts that say it's not a demon. You know, because I always say, you know, demons have much better things to do than throw Aunt Millie's plate. They really do. You know, they really do. You know, and Gail is saying they don't. She's like, back there. She goes, you know, you have to. There's a process. You have to invite a demon in. You know, it's not like it's not just there. You know, I mean, it could be, but usually when the cases that I felt were closest to the beginnings, and not even a true one, closest to the beginnings of some sort of an attachment that could go down that road. There was something involved. Either there was some sort of invitation involved. So, and for example, and you know, actually Frankie, who's watching, knows this case very well. This person went for 5 spiritual surgeries, I think it was, in Brazil for 7 days. And he, so he went for 5 spiritual surgeries in Brazil then the other person supposedly had a curse placed upon them in Guyana. So, so there's different, like we talk when Lauren was talking, there's different contexts in which these things are happening, you know? So anyway, I digress, sorry.
Nice. You may already know this book, but there's a book called Hostage to the Devil by Father Malachi Martin. And it's got 5 for people who don't know, it's got 5 cases in this book, and it does it from the exorcist perspective and the possessee's perspective. It's a very fascinating book, no matter where you land, and like whether you're skeptic, debunker, believer. It's a fascinating book, and I always recommend that people read it. It's a good one. Yeah. So let's see. So this next question, Lauren, is for you. I want to talk about the resonance chamber. Yeah. It's such a unique concept. So can you tell us a little bit about it, and if you've gotten reactions from participants?
We did. Well, here, I'll slow. Well, here's the funny. Right now, I'm programming its upgrade right now.
Nice.
It's going to have a touch screen and a dome speaker. Okay, so the resonance chamber is like a big social experiment / installation that's almost like not like an art in motion, but like an art in emotion. You know how they have those art in motion? This is art in emotion. I just did that, coining it right now. So Rebecca and Adam, who own the Madison Seminary, are very good friends of mine. And Rebecca reached out to me one day and was like, I need you to put something in Madison. And I was like, I was literally just writing about something that I wanted to put in on a location. So let's talk. So it is, with a little bit of background to it, I had quite a history with sort of like spiritual practices, being somebody who was like a deconstructed Christian at about, my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, and kind of figuring out like where my belief system and my spirituality belonged. So we go in through all of these different phases through our lives with our spirituality if we're just trying to find something that fits. And that took me to a lot of different places. And I studied and like was certified in like meditation and yogic practices in India. I've been to oh my gosh, it has just left me. The church that's in the middle of like the city of Jerusalem, which is essentially built over the cave that they said that, Jesus was entombed at when he died. I touched the slab of petrified wood that they said that he was laid out on. So I've been to a lot of different places of like deep spirituality over probably the last 15 years. And throughout all of these different cultural belief systems, there is, of course, this one big commonality, which is like prayer, meditation, that internal spiritual connection that you're finding in order to, find either enlightenment or forgiveness or knowledge, and all of these things in common with this sort of like be present with yourself and allow things to open up to you sort of thing. So I really, really wanted to explore that when it came to paranormal experience, especially, and this kind of ties back with your question about tech. We have gotten so tech heavy and so critical heavy when it comes to how we experience the paranormal. And I've always believed no matter what, no matter if I'm a straight up like nothing but science, I think it's so important for us to have that space of wonder and that space of spirituality, whether it is a total lack of belief, which is, in and itself a belief, or if it is a fully casted huge production of all of these different deities. And so the way I wanted to explore that was, I was like, okay, well, in order for me to really explore applying the scientific method to this, something that is like almost an impossible feat, I'd have to have time. You can't do that in one day. You can't do that in 2 days. It would be something that would take years at a location where it had to be housed. We had to have control experiments. We had to have that observation period where it was just open to the public. And so I'm like working this out. I'm writing it down. I'm talking about it. I'm meditating myself before going into locations and all of these things. And so when Rebecca was like, I want you to install something at Madison. And I was like, what do you mean install something? And she's like, you know how like they have this room that's just mirrors. And so they have that there. And she's like the mirror room. And I was like, oh, like permanent. And she's like, yes, I want you to have, I was like, I have something. Let's talk right now. And she's huge into yogic and spiritual practice and meditation. So she was just like salivating at this idea. And so I was like, I got to throw this together. I don't know what I'm doing. It's getting an upgrade now because it stayed in there over the course of the winter and the mechanics kind of broke. So it's a fully automated chamber or broom closet that I installed a leaning bench, and I kind of just like put a bunch of fabric everywhere and made it really cozy. And when you walk into it, it prompts a meditation. And there are directions outside of it. That's essentially, it's up on Sarah's floor, which is a one of their more like haunted floors at Madison Seminary. So the idea is going up to this floor and walking around and just taking in how you feel, taking in if you have an experience, whatever. You go into the chamber and it allows you to sit and relax and have a controlled moment of like meditation. There's drumming, there's sound. I am adding a shorter voice guided meditation. And then you go back out into the space and you walk around and you just see if there's just a little change in either how you feel, how you experience something, how your hearing is, how your sight is. If anything changes at all, there's a QR code that you can scan and you can fill out a survey. And so we debuted it at MadCon, and it was just a public thing. So you could just go in and it's just a public experience, and it allows people to warm up to that idea. And then this year was the first like controlled experiment. So I rented out the entire Madison Seminary, and also there were no employees allowed in the building. So there was nobody in the building. So one person went on the side that had the chamber. They were the only people there. I had monitoring for like vehicles driving by and things like that. So notes, it was me, and it was being filmed also for a documentary. So it was nice because I had like an extra hand. So we were writing notes like somebody flushed the toilet at this time, a car drove by, this and that. So a lot of notes. And people one at a time were able to go up, and I had a digital recorder around their wrist. It was all timed, and they had a walkie-talkie with them that they weren't allowed to speak into. It was just me communicating with them. So I had all of these controls put in place and ran this experiment, and consistently, it's really cool, like getting back just how helpful it is. And I had some people who had never been to a haunted location before. Like, it was so perfect for my first control experiment. It was everything I could have asked for. I had seasoned investigators. I had people who have never ghost hunted before. I had investigators who had just never been to Madison. So it was like this chef's kiss. And then they all were debriefed before they went back, and they weren't allowed to talk to each other and all of this stuff. So the chamber in itself is exploring the connection that our state of mind has, or if you want to get real spiritual, our like chakra state or our energy center state has with how we can either experience, or if it plays a huge part in experiencing the paranormal. So yeah, it's so cool. And I'm adding a touch screen, so you'll be able to pick. There's a 15-minute, which I jokingly say that I try to tell all the psychics, I'm like, this is for normies, guys, because I have psychics going up there and like, I need this 15-minute, because it's like a shamanic drumming track. And they're like, I need the 15-minute one, because they see like visions and all this stuff. And I'm like, you guys this isn't drugs. They're like, yes, it is. And then I have a 5-minute one, which is a voice guided like energy opener meditation. And yeah, so it's gonna have a touch screen, and I'm adding a dome speaker that I'm making to make it a little bit more immersive. And so yeah, so it's open to the public. It'll be back up and running next week. And I'm excited about it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And it's just is going to be there forever. So I just get to collect data for the rest of time, and I'm so excited.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
If you make t-shirts for the Resonance Chamber, you got to have the tagline, not drugs.
Not drugs.
It is not. If you're psychic, it's not drugs. I'm talking, and I let Christopher Lee Jansen, and then his. I don't. Dawn, if you're watching, I'm not meaning like protege, but come on, like Christopher Lee and like Dawn Toneman, she trains with him. They were like going in there together, and they were like, what did you see? What did I? Oh, and I'm like, are you guys like fiending? Get out of here. This is for normies, guys. But no, so the psychics love it.
That's amazing.
And then the normies are like, whoa, dude. And my husband even, and he's like a very lax believer. He's like, yeah, cool, it could happen, whatever. But like, whatever. he did it, and he was like, yeah, nothing really happened. And I was like, how long did you feel like you were in there? And he was like, I don't know, it was like 5 minutes, right? And I was like, no, you were in there for 17. And he was like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, time loss is one of the questions. And that's what that was that you just experienced. And he was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And I'm like, yeah, dude. Okay, the end.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Oh, and the meditations are also now available on my website. So you can use them at other locations. You can put on your little headphones and you can stream them for free on my website, or you can download them for like $1.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm like thinking of my list internally. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
And you can listen to me meditate in your ear.
Yes, that's even better. Nice. All right. Last call for questions, everyone, for our guests. I got one more that I'm going to ask Cara and Lauren. If you have any questions, pop them into the chat. This last call. Last call. Here we go. So for both of you, what advice do you have for new investigators who want to approach the paranormal ethically and responsibly?
You want to go first?
I went first. Wait, did I already go first?
Cara needs to go. Cara, it's your turn to go
Cara,
first.
you gotta go first.
Ethically and responsibly. Woo! Do your history, do your research, and know. Then I'm not to repeat what somebody said, but know your equipment and what you're measuring. But know your equipment, and it's not a demon. It's not a demon. It's not a demon, but yeah, that's what I would do. Do your research. And my other thing that I tell.
Uh-oh.
Was that the demon stopping her from talking?
Uh-oh. She ticked off the demons. Uh-oh. Whoa. That's I was like, is it me? Did my internet go? But
is she
no.
frozen in time now?
I think she is. Cara.
It's still not a demon, guys.
Oh, she went offline. Oh, she's back. Hang on.
Wait. Oh, there I am. Wait.
I thought the demons got you.
No. I don't know what you heard and what you didn't hear.
It was right. You said it's not a demon, and then you went. And then you froze. Oh my God, they got her.
It's not a demon, is it?
I agree with what you were saying, though.
I don't know what you heard. So I'm glad
it's not a demon.
Yeah, you reiterated. You said know the equipment that you're using, what you're looking for, and then you were really bringing it home with it's not a demon. It's not a demon. It's not a.
Right. Yeah. And the last thing what you didn't hear was I said. Yeah, don't go in with preconceived notions. Gail yelled it, and the last one was when you do your research at your location, treat the entities that are there with the history that you've learned and with the respect that you would go into somebody's house. They're not trick ponies. They're not trick ponies. So, that being said.
So I'll almost piggyback on that and give it to the maybe depending on. So personally for me, I don't do communication work or entity work. So I don't actually go into spaces thinking that there are sentient beings in there for me to communicate with. Mm-hmm. And I still make it a very, very big point to you be respectful of your surrounding. You act like it's your grandma's house. And it's okay if you don't want to go in and start talking to ghosts. Sometimes it's okay to just go in and see how you feel. Don't stock up on hundreds and hundreds of dollars in equipment. It's not worth it. It's going to do is maybe just create an excitable moment. So it's almost like indulge in the idea that sometimes the paranormal can be really, really boring and then work up from there because it's only going to get cooler the more that you learn.
Love that.
Love it.
Nice. All right.
This felt like it was 10 minutes.
I know. It was the time lapse we were talking about. Were you
Right.
playing the music in the background?
I know, right?
Where's this room? Oh, Jim, it is at the Madison Seminary in Madison, Ohio. And I'm installing the upgrade next week. So it will be available at MadCon, and then it will be available at all the flashlight tours, all the privates, everything after next week.
Sweet. All right. Well, cool beans, everybody. Wow, this was a great conversation. Yeah, it went really quick. I was like,
It went so quick.
45 minutes, maybe an hour if we could fill it.
It was great. This is wonderful. It makes me so much more excited.
Yeah.
No, the symposium is going to be amazing, y'all. Like, it's going to be so good.
I'm
So
not even
good.
going to be at my table. So hopefully nobody comes to try to talk to me because I'm not going to be at my table. I'm going to be watching everybody the whole time like this.
Yep. Just watching. Yeah, same. It's almost like, man, there's 3 different rooms and it's trying to create the schedule. I know there's going to be 3 sessions happening at a time. So you're going to have to, we're trying to figure out tech wise, like if we can record the other sessions and just keep it to like the speakers so that y'all can watch each other's, stuff.
Well, and it's nice that we'll have the, journal and stuff too. That'll be good.
And the journal. Yep. You'll have the journal
Yeah.
too. So, and I'm still working on the first one. But yeah, journals are a lot, y'all.
I'll just make everybody redo their presentations at the bar after they've had a few shots.
Yeah. Oh, that would be interesting actually. Like
drunken Shakespeare.
Symposium after
yes.
I'll take a
Drunken
weed gummy.
Shakespeare. There you go. There you go. There you go.
But guys, physics, we're going to go to another dimension.
I love that. All right. Well, before I let you both go for the evening, where can people find you if they want to chat with you more, find your socials, or even maybe get some product from y'all?
Look at that. She's got it.
Perfect.
I'm so unprepared. Okay. So I am get it 9livesparanormal.com and at 9livesparanormal. So that's it. I don't have a fancy sign.
I need to get one. I mean, I got a bunch of little signs behind me. Where'd you get that from, Lauren? Or did you make it?
I think maybe this was a chalkboard. I think I got maybe at Michael's.
Okay.
Maybe.
When they were doing their pastel goth thing.
Their pastel goth, yeah.
They did have a pastel goth phase.
But I think it may have been one I found in the clearance section, or it was at like maybe it was like Dollar Tree or something. It was somewhere. It was very inexpensive. And then I laser engraved this on it and then I colored it.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Nice.
Nice.
Very good. All right. I'm going to kick y'all off camera now so I'm going to do my closing. Thank you both for such an amazing conversation. This was a blast. This was a blast, and I'm going to show some love from Ron before I let you both go. But yeah, so good. So good. All right. See y'all. So I'll see you both later.
Thank you. Do you need us to stick around?
Yes. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, whether you're watching live or catching the replay later. Thank you for being here. And a huge thank you to Cara and Lauren and Gail for, off screen chiming in. We appreciated it. I know I speak for a lot of folks when I say I cannot wait to see you all in person at the symposium on August 23rd in Gettysburg. By the way, if you were thinking about coming to the symposium and you want to stay at the host hotel, tomorrow is the last day to book your room. So be sure to book your room at the 1863 Inn if you haven't already. And there's only like 5 rooms left. So it's going. Then if you haven't grabbed your tickets yet, go ahead and do so. And we'll be back next Monday at 8 p.m. with another featured speaker. So mark your calendars, follow APS. We're going to be doing this every Monday evening until the symposium. So thank you all for joining me tonight, and I will see you all. Well, you won't see me next week. Whitney's going to be hosting next week. I'll see you all 2 weeks from now, but you'll see Whitney next time. All right.